So Stalin, now the first thing he does, which is generally what happens, you look throughout history, whenever a conqueror comes in and they want to eradicate Islam, what do? They go for the scholars. So Stalin now looks for the scholars, and wherever he finds the scholars, either they are killed, and they were killed in mass, huge. Historians mention that they would actually dig graves with using these large kind of crane forkish things to dig to bury the ulama in that place. So in one large place you would have a huge grave. Until today, they have places that they know of where large amounts of ulama were buried. Why? Because if you remove the ulama, you remove the ilm. If you remove the ilm, then people become jahil. And this is why Imam Bukhari rahmatullah alayhi in his Sahih, he has a bab, a chapter heading, it's called Bab Raf'ul Ilm wa Zahurul Jahl. The taking up of knowledge and the consequences of that is Zahurul Jahl, then people will become jahil. And this is why ilm is very, very important. You will see the consequences of this later on. So what they did in en masse, they butchered the ulama wherever they could find them. If they didn't kill them, then they sent them to the gallows. The ones who were not killed, who were not sent to the gallows, what they did, they shipped them off to Serbia. So accounts still remain regarding ulama that they shipped them off to Serbia and just left them in the snow, in the ice. So those who survived the cold mentioned the fact that they would walk and they would not stop moving all the time because their bodies would freeze up. And when they'd be walking on ice, then the only way that they could eat was fish under the solid ice. So they would have to break the ice, take the fish, eat the fish raw, but not rest. They couldn't rest. So this is how they, and many other incidents are mentioned, that how they actually killed the ulama. I mean, in Tashkent, I visited a place in Tashkent. It was called the Garden of the Martyrs. I also have a video of it on my Facebook page, the Garden of the Martyrs. So basically, just in one city in Tashkent, what they would do is, if they had any doubt a man or a woman was still practicing their religion, they would be brought to this garden. At that time, it was just outside Tashkent. So they would be brought there. There was only 3 soldiers. These 3 soldiers would make a verdict that it was this person guilty or not guilty. It would generally take them 5 to 10 minutes. 5 to 10 minutes, and then they would kill that person. By morning, by dawn, that person would be killed. Just imagine, the family wouldn't know. Right next to this river, right next to this place is a river. So what they would do is they would take the dead bodies and they would throw them into the river. Those are recorded. Many were not recorded. Just in 1937. Just in 1937, in that place, in the Garden of the Martyrs, 13,000 people were killed for the sake of deen. In the communist era, in Central Asia, over 1 million Muslims lost their lives defending their honor and the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Over 1 million Muslims. Those who were sent to the gallows, the ulama and the prisons, the prison condition was what? So they recall that what they would do is that they would give them bowls and they would say, wash your hand in the bowl. So they would make them wash their hand in the bowl, and then they would put the food in the same bowl. So food in the same bowl where they had washed their hands, and the prison cells were such that you couldn't stand up and you couldn't lie down. So you were in almost a coffin. So this is what they did to the ulama. And the reason, brothers and sisters, this is stories that we appreciate what we have, wallahi. The ease with which we practice our religion. So once they had eradicated the ulama, then they put the bans on the general masses. So what was the ban on the general masses? They banned the Quran. You weren't allowed to have the Quran. Not only were you not allowed to have the Quran, if they ever found that you had any verses of the Quran, any verses, they would send you to the gallows. The entire family would be sent to the gallows. Subhanallah. So there's no ulama, there is no Quran. The language, the Tajiks and the Uzbeks, the alphabet that they used was Arabic. That was changed into Russian. In the masajid, yeah? Imagine this. In the entirety of the USSR, how many Muslims did I say? 45 million to 50 million Muslims. How many active masjids? 500. For 50 million Muslims, they had 5 masjids. In certain places in Uzbekistan, in one city, they had, once upon a time, they had over 1,000 masjids. In the time of the USSR, there was not even one masjid left. In some places, just one masjid. Just imagine this. You have a masjid here, you have a masjid there, you have a masjid up the road, on Trinity Road. There's 3 masjids on one street. For 50 million Muslims, there was 500 masjids in the entirety of the USSR. So no ulama. You guys always cussing the Maulvis, yeah? When the Maulvis are not around, then I like to see what you do. You'd have no nikahs, you'd have no janazas, you have no aqiqas, you would have no khatams, you would have nothing. So what happens here? Now my guide, Brother Salahuddin, he was telling me, he said a time came when the people only believed that the only thing which was haram was pork. So everything else, no matter how it's slaughtered, is halal. Uzbekistan is what? 90% plus Muslims. They didn't know halal and haram. Nothing. The only thing they thought was haram was pork. That's the only thing. Because they had no ulama to recourse to. No Islamic education. The masajid. They say on the arches of the masjids, what they would do is that they would put speakers, but not blasting Quran or talks. They would be blasting music. They would be playing talks on atheism, spreading propaganda regarding atheism. Nothing remained. Vodka. The price of vodka was cheaper than a soft drink. Half the price of soft drink. Why? Because now you've taken the ilm away from them. They've got no source of education. They don't really understand halal, haram. And then now what you do, you give them vodka. Even till today, my guide told me, even until today, 70% plus of the people in Uzbekistan drink alcohol, drink vodka. He said in his village, everybody drinks. Everybody. He said even the women drink. He said he finds it difficult to go back to his village now, because when he goes there, his friends say, you think you're too good for us now? Because he became a bit religious. He said, you think you're too good for us? Just imagine this. And then comes the usual, the hijab. Hijab was banned everywhere. What was the reason why hijab was banned by the atheists, by the Russians? Simple. It's oppressive. You know, the same argument that you hear everywhere. It's oppressive. You know, inequality. Even if the women want to wear it, it's still oppressive. Like you need always, throughout history, You always need to tell us how our women must dress.